Fifth holiday. Eighth holiday. Thank you.
All right, I have 9:30. Ready.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Western Municipal Water District's regular board meeting for September the 7th at 9:30. We'll call the meeting to order at this time. And folks in our audience, if you do have a cell phone, we please ask that you silence it or put it on stun because you don't want to be that person. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead, Madam Secretary, if you could read in our COVID protocols and do the roll call, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Pursuant to Western Municipal Water District Resolution 3248, in an effort to protect the public health, prevent the spread of COVID-19, and because state and local officials are recommending measures to promote social distancing, the public may view this board meeting virtually, via Zoom, and in person. This meeting is being live streamed at WMWD.com and will be video recorded for on-demand viewing and broadcasting purposes. As stated on the agenda, members of the public who wish to comment on any item on the agenda may make comments in person, virtually via Zoom, or by submitting comments on the district's website. Comments received on the district's website before 4:30 p.m. September 6, 2022 will be made part of the board meeting record. For those participating in the Zoom meeting who wish to provide public comments, please indicate such by using the raise hand feature, and we will call on you individually. For those participating by telephone who wish to provide public comment, you may do so by pressing *6 to unmute yourself. Phone callers can also press *9 to activate the raise hand feature. If there is more than one caller, you will be identified and called on one at a time. Any public comment will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. However, the presiding officer reserves the right to reduce the amount of time you will be allowed to speak to ensure that all members of the public have an opportunity to provide their comment. I will now take roll call for the meeting. Due to the complexity of conducting this meeting by Zoom and telephonically, I will not be taking roll call for staff members or the public at this time. Director Roten.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you, good morning. Director Rizvi.
Good morning, I'm on Zoom.
Thank you, good morning. Director Gardner. Good morning. Thank you, good morning. Director Torres.
Good morning, I'm calling in.
Thank you. President Denstedt.
I am present. Good morning.
Good morning. President Denstedt, you do have a quorum today.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance. Peter, if you would please be so kind as to step up to the podium.
About 12 years. I work in the collections department. I maintain the sewer lift station, sewer maintenance, CCTV. I make sure everything is right in our district. And I would like to just say thank you guys very much for giving us all the resources so we can do our job to the best of our abilities. All right. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Peter, thank you so much for coming in today to lead us in the pledge. We certainly love to hear about what our employees are doing at the district, and you definitely have a very important job, sir. We like to make sure that all of our sewer treatment plants are working and operating exactly how they're supposed to. Yes. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we'll go ahead and move forward with public comments. Madam Secretary, is there anyone in the audience who has submitted a public request card to speak today?
President Dinstead, I've received no request to speak today. I see no one in the audience or on Zoom, and we have received no written public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on from public comment to the presentation. Mr. Miller.
All right, thank you, President Dinstead. We're very fortunate this morning to have Jennifer Pierre here with us. She is the general manager of the state water contractors. So when you hear about Met getting their contract and their 5% allocation, Jennifer is the person that lives this every minute of every day and gets the joy of 5% allocations and how we're going to work through that. So Jennifer can answer any question you want when she's done about that. She is very good and very knowledgeable, obviously, and she's going to give us a little update on Delta Conveyance project. So Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to see you, and the podium is yours.
Great. Good morning. Thank you for having me. The 5% allocation is not my fault. Hopefully we'll get some better news coming up, but I think the forecasts are that we're in it for another pretty difficult year relative to hydrology. So I think the conservation that people are doing and investments in local projects is really important. But today I'm going to talk about the Delta Conveyance project, which really does relate to some of the local projects that people are investing in and how this fits within the broader water supply portfolio for the state water project contractors. You receive your water from Metropolitan, but just as a way of background, there's 27 public water agencies that are members of the state water contractors, including Metropolitan. And they each receive some portion of their supply portfolio from the state water project. And our organization represents those interests here in Sacramento, whether it be for permitting or legislative activity or technical assistance, et cetera. And we're a small group of about 9 people, but try to get a lot done on behalf of the 27 million Californians and 750,000 acres of farmland that we help irrigate. So we'll just focus on DCP, but as Craig said, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may come up with this morning. Next slide, please. Do I have control or someone else?
You should see it.
Yeah.
We have
Okay,
control.
great. Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure. So, I think this concept of a conveyance facility or a peripheral facility has been around for a really long time, but I think as our climate change conditions are becoming more and more obvious to us, it's really zeroing in on the importance of having a facility that allows us to move this water when it's available. We know that we're going to see precipitation in the form of rain rather than in the form of snow. We know that we're going to see hydrology more extreme. So rather than snow over the winter and a slow melt that's captured in the reservoirs that we can make releases and then divert into areas that have the demand for the water, we're going to be seeing water just come at us. So we saw that last year. We saw that in 2017. We see it over the course of a season. We see it over the course of a storm. And I think the conveyance facility is really critical to being able to capture that water when it's available in a way that's safe for the environment so that we can put it to use when we don't have that sort of hydrology. We also know that there are earthquake risks in Northern California and in the Delta. That's been well documented for a long time, as well as sea level rise, which we continue to experience and models continue to project is going to occur. The Delta Conveyance project moves the point of diversion in a way that can more easily capture these high flow events, as well as is at a higher elevation so that it is able to divert fresh water, which is how the State Water Project was originally designed. So this is really becoming more and more clear. And to the next slide, to that point, in December of just 2021, just a few months ago, of course, we were in a very dry year, but here in Northern California, we have the wettest December on record. We got 5 inches of rain in 24 hours in downtown Sacramento. It's a huge amount of water in Northern California, and most of that fell as rain, right? Not as snow, came into the valley floor. And had we had the tunnel in place, we would have been able to move about 236,000 acre feet of water. So even within a very dry overall year, there are always storms, and the Delta Conveyance project allows us to take advantage of those storms. We would have been able to move this water, meeting all of the Delta water quality standards and other fish environmental restrictions. And I think this just really puts a very fine point and a real point on how critical climate change adaptation infrastructure is for our system, and the types of ways we need to make investments in our system to be more responsive to the hydrology that we know we're going to experience in the future and currently are experiencing, actually. Next slide. Like I mentioned before, the State Water Project delivers water to 27 million Californians, but it's actually 1 in 12 Americans, which seems like an even more impressive number. We also are serving water to 6 million disadvantaged community members. So about 3/4 of all of the disadvantaged communities live within the State Water Project service area. So affordability is a really important piece for us. And sometimes I talk about the tunnel as, you know, fixing your existing car rather than buying a new car. And I think we all know we need to probably, you know, buy some new cars, AKA recycling, conservation, storage investments. But there's a lot of value in repairing and restoring and maintaining existing infrastructure. And that's really what the Delta Conveyance project is all about. So we need to make these investments, and we need to do this not just for maintaining the State Water Project supply, but also because it helps to support other investments. So for example, if you are going to build storage, you need water to put into that storage. That's where the State Water Project can come into play. It also helps with groundwater basin management. It helps with promoting and supporting recycled water operations. It obviously helps with water quality blending, especially in the metropolitan water service area. So there's a lot of value to ensuring the State Water Project remains a stable source of supply. And, you know, we also need to make sure that we are doing so in a way that is protective of our environment, and human health and safety, et cetera. Next slide. The project concept has been, you know, typically the same since, you know, the 60s, but I think it's been really substantially refined under the Newsom administration. And this is just showing a map of the actual infrastructure. The proposed project is what we call the Bethany alignment. That's really represented by that orange line there, that it basically bypasses the existing forebay where the State Water Project currently pumps water from. And this just creates a redundancy within the pumping system for the State Water Project, so that you could pump from the existing pumping plant, or you could pump to directly into Bethany, where it can be diverted into the State Water Project. It's a total capacity of 6,000 CFS. That does not mean that it would be operated at 6,000 CFS all of the time. There are complex environmentally protective rules that would dictate how the actual intakes would be operated, but that would be the maximum. And there'd be 2 intakes operated to supply that water. We've also looked at a number of alternatives, or DWR has, and that includes a different alignments, which are shown on the map here as central and eastern. We've looked at 1, 2, and 3 intakes. Previously, WaterFix had 3 intakes, and we've looked at a range of diversion capacity between 3,000 CFS all the way up to 7,500 CFS, which with 6,000 being the proposed project. And they've also looked at modifications to the forebay rather than using the existing Bethany Reservoir. Next slide. As I mentioned, I think there has been a lot of work by this administration. In fact, prior to being general manager of the State Water Contractors, I was DWR's lead consultant on this project, and I can say confidently that the team is even better than it was. And I think they are really working diligently to ensure that what we had that was made sense and was good in, you know, previous iterations of this project is moving forward. And where we needed to make improvements, they're doing so in a very efficient way. So I think they're moving fast and hard to meet the mission of a single tunnel, which has been done. That's what we're looking at. There's a lot of design and engineering work that has been done. There's improved technologies. There's been a number of engagements with the local community to figure out how to minimize and avoid impacts. This is a statewide beneficial project, but it does concentrate construction impacts in a certain area of the state. And I think that's something that we need to recognize and address. And I believe that the DWR and state team have done a really good job working towards that objective. They've re-looked at everything, but haven't scrapped everything. So I think just really being efficient with existing information and really moving the project forward. And next slide. Like I said about minimizing project impacts, and I think we need to be real about that. There are real impacts to folks living in the Delta, working in the Delta, but we've done things such as move the launch shaft, which is where the tunnel enters the ground, away from the intakes, and have proposed transportation and construction routes that are not within the central area of the Delta, reduce the number of acres that are being impacted by the tunnel material that would be extracted, avoiding Highway 160, which is one of the major thoroughfares in the Delta, undergrounding some power lines to avoid the fully protected Sandhill Crane, no inclusion of barge landings. Previously, we had a number of different barge landings throughout the Delta that could have created some boating restrictions. Those are no longer being proposed. And as I mentioned before, we're not proposing to do any new forebay construction. We're going to use existing facilities, which is beneficial in terms of reducing the amount of land use changes, but also in creating redundancies for the operations of the State Water Project. Next slide. To do all this, as I mentioned, there has been a lot of community engagement. There's been a lot of focus on environmental justice and disadvantaged communities. We have a dedicated consultant that works on that issue. There's been a number of polls and surveys done about the project in multiple languages to really try to understand the local community's concerns. There's been extensive coordination with tribal interests and communities, much more than there had been before. And as a result of that, the EIR includes a tribal impact analysis, which is really looking at the Delta as a tribal resource as a whole, which is a first of its kind way of looking at a project and its potential impacts. And then we've had a very official engagement with the community called the Stakeholder Engagement Community that was in place for, I believe, about a year, maybe 18 months, that really focused on construction impacts and how to minimize those. And input from all of these outreach activities has really led to a much more sensitive project, and one that I think meets the objectives of the State Water Project while also minimizing and avoiding impacts to the local community. Next slide. We have to continue that engagement. We are committed to what's called a community benefits program. And although it's not fully fleshed out, it's something that we are continuing to work towards. And that may include kind of a broad Delta fund. It could include leave behind infrastructure such as, Wi-Fi or improvements in roads. It could include job training and better engagement with local businesses and other economic activity that would help in the long run for the Delta region. And I think there's been an openness to not just looking broadly at the Delta, but really specific towns or communities, and really focus on, what their needs are, what the impacts of the project are, and how to perhaps use the community benefits program to maximize the benefits to the communities that are impacted by the project. Next slide. The draft EIR was released a little over a month ago, and it's a 90-day public comment period. There is an EIS that the Army Corps of Engineers is developing. It should be available shortly. Hopefully the conclusion of the review periods will generally align, and then the department and Corps can work on final EIR and EIS in about a year from now. We can see that. It's really critical that agencies and communities that understand the importance and support this project are making their voices heard. We hear a lot of opposition to the project, and I think it's really important for the administration as well as the general public to understand how this project impacts them and why it's important to their water supply. So I do hope that your agency will consider sending a letter of support and helping to educate those that receive water from your agency on the importance of this project to them. Sometimes it's hard to get that message. You know, we turn our water on, it comes out, we go to the grocery store, the food is there. But really understanding that source and the way the infrastructure is used to make that happen is something that we hope that agencies can help with. Next slide. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Great presentation. And I think that we need to help more than just letters of support. You know, there's a popular story that goes around that when Governor Newsom first came in, he asked the mayors what their opinion was of the tunnels, and none of the mayors could really articulate what the tunnels were, what the benefit was to having the tunnels. So we don't want to be in that position again. So I do think that beyond just supporting with a letter of support with the environmental documents, we need to do our homework locally with our local electeds and business community to really support the project and get a broader based support. So we'll be working on that end from down here. But great presentation. I'm sure our board has a couple of questions they'd like to run by you.
Okay, questions? Anybody?
I'll just make more of a comment because I think I'm in that stage of I still don't know what I don't know at this point. But I will share that I have liked the Delta Conveyance page on Facebook, and I try to share that. They're putting up some really good posts, kind of breaking it, it seems like, down into smaller steps so it's not so overwhelming for people. And so I've been trying to share that out on Facebook as my small part to spreading the word. And I have spoken with people about it that, you know, please, this is the public comment period. You have until October 27th, but I know how we all put things off, or maybe just me. And so, you know, I want to make sure that they look at it and know the importance of it. And I agree, if they start seeing and hearing a lot of opposition, they're going to be more reticent to put a support comment in. So I think the earlier we can get the information to folks, the better. Good information and accurate, and maybe allay some of their concerns, because it did kind of get a negative rap previously. I thought it was a good idea before, but I still think it's a good idea. So yeah, so that's it. So I don't, at this point, don't really have questions. I will admit that I haven't spent as much time on the website as I should, so I do want to commit to going back and, you know, learning some of the talking points so that I can share specific information with people. So thank you for the presentation.
Okay. Other questions? Director Gardner.
Thank you. I too don't have any questions. I thought this was an excellent presentation, and to me, one of the biggest takeaways is what you began with, that in December of last year, we lost 236,000 acre feet of water we could have had. That's pretty significant. That'd make a big difference if we had that in storage as opposed to in the Pacific Ocean. I also agree with Mr. Miller that it's really important that we individually and we as Western talk to our local elected officials, from city councils and mayors up through our state legislators. Make sure that they understand what the issue is, what the project is, what its schedule is, and that they need to be paying attention and supporting it. So it was, again, just a really good presentation. We have, I believe, captured all of this, and we can print it out or share it electronically. So thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions from the directors on Zoom? Okay, hearing none. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. I did have just a couple of questions, if you could indulge me.
Sure.
how many presentations have you done to this point for getting this forward? I mean, are you going out and actively seeking support or doing these presentations to inform the public during the public comment period?
During this public comment period, or,
Yes.
I mean, I've been involved in this project for 15 years. Okay, I'm like, I don't know how many
The
presentations.
new and refreshed and revised, the recent
Yes,
stuff.
this is my second one. I also did one for Eastern Municipal Water District. Usually you would have Department of Water Resources or the JPA, that the Design and Construction Authority, and I think they'll be available for any board presentations. They are wanting to make sure we're not convoluting any CEQA comments, and so in this period now, State Water Contractors is doing that. So I've only done two, actually. This is my second one.
Okay. And as far as some of the big support agencies, bodies, do we know if Aqua or if anybody else is commenting on these? I mean, and that's probably
Well, that's
a
a good question on
for-
Aqua. I don't know, Jennifer, what have your conversations, let's pose that to Jennifer.
Yeah, let's-
Have you had conversations with Aqua, Jennifer?
So I have not personally had conversations recently with Aqua. In the past, Aqua has taken no position on this project because I think there are differing opinions about the project, even throughout the water agency world. This is a state water project, specific project. It is our hope and objective that we can make sure that other water agencies are not concerned about the operations of this project. I think we were very close there with WaterFix, and so that is work that we have to do to make sure that within the water rights structure we aren't causing any upset. So it could be possible that we could get Aqua to a support position, but that hasn't been the case in the past, but they've certainly just remained neutral. We do have, there are 18 large water agencies supporting the project. That's how the planning is being paid for. So you have San Bernardino, Mojave Water, Santa Clarita, obviously Metropolitan, Kern County Water Agency, Santa Clara Valley Water Agency. So within the state water contractors, there's a number of supporters, so much so that they're paying for the work to be done to get the EIR and pre-planning completed.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Director Gardner, you had a comment?
I'm sorry, I did come up with a question. What is the current estimated cost of the project? I recognize it's an estimate and that it has changed and may change again.
Yes, you're testing my memory a little bit, but we did have the DCA, or the Design and Construction Authority, do a very preliminary cost estimate on a single tunnel back in 2020 to support planning activity commitments by the participating agencies, and I believe it was around $15 billion. But I would just caveat that's at very low level of design, practically zero, and there's a lot of refinements yet to be done, and we are probably not going to revisit that cost estimate until we've got better design refinements to get back at that specific number.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, and one final question that I have, Jennifer, is, so do you have the hopes that it's not going to take you another 15 years working on this project to get something moving?
I always get that. I do get that question a lot, even when I'm not presenting. I think that I always reflect back about 10 years ago, before the last really hard drought. We were presenting modeling data for BDCP to some folks that operate reservoirs in Northern California. And we were showing reservoir dead pools. And they just could not even handle it. That's not true. Your modeling's wrong. There's no way that would ever happen. Obviously, this is the tunnel's fault. And we could see it was climate change coming. And so for me, it's been really interesting to see that in a very rapid way, we're living through what the models told us was going to happen. I mean, something we were predicting, we knew was going to eventually kind of happen, but this is coming at us so much quicker. And while that's very challenging to manage, it actually, I think, really focuses all of us water planners on the needs and the actual challenges that we have. And, a lot of hard things with these sorts of droughts, but also this focus that we're getting and the fact that we can really see within the models and in our reality, in our lived environment, that this is actually a really necessary project. I do hope can create the type of focus and leadership that's needed to get this project done. I do feel that, we've had 4 governors more recently in support of this project. And I would say that Governor Newsom is very focused on it. I think understands the need for this project. And as I mentioned, I think DWR has the best team they've ever had on this. They have right now. And I think this project, if we don't build this project, then the state water project will eventually fail. Investment in this project is investment in the state water project's continued existence. So I think that is becoming clearer and clearer to water managers and investors. And on the whole, for most agencies, even though it is an expensive, large infrastructure project, it still remains one of the more affordable ways of securing water supply. And I think in combination with other key investments at the local and regional level, it's absolutely necessary. And I think all of that, of what I just said, is not just limited to the brains of a few of us writing environmental documents, but becoming clear across the board in a way that I think will give this project momentum for completion.
Jennifer, what's the capacity in the state water project under full allocation?
4.2 million acre feet.
Yeah. So, when Jennifer says, I'll paraphrase her, that the state water project could cease to operate. That's 4.2 million acre feet of water that disappears from our water portfolio. What do we do? What do we do? And 2 million is Met's allocation out of the state water projects. They have about half of the state water project. So where does Southern California, just speaking Southern California very selfishly, where does Southern California find 2 million acre feet? It's not coming from the Colorado. We all know that. And the Coastal Commission just denied Huntington Beach's desal permit. So where are we going for 2 million acre feet? Does someone have a magic bag of water? Western, we've got every iron in the fire for local water supply, recycling, brackish desal, groundwater pumping, groundwater recharge. We're doing it all. So this is a hugely important project for the state. You've all heard me solve the water crisis, talk about how important water supply is, and this project is the backbone of the whole state. So there is no more important project, I don't think, in the state than this project. So we have to figure out, to Director Roten's comments, that, I know there was a lot of bad blood about this project, paraphrasing Director. That needs to change, because the water agencies are supportive. We're just getting out-shouted by the special interest groups that don't want it. So we have to build the other side of the argument so that there is more support. So.
Okay.
Can I just add that it's really important to understand this project is not the only project. And so to your point of the investments you're making at the local level, all of the participants in the project are doing the same, obviously at different levels of intensity and based on their own unique circumstances. But I think that there's a false argument that you can either build the tunnel or you can do local projects.
Yeah,
you can either conserve or you can make investments in infrastructure. And I think that reasonable people's perspectives need to really be the primary voice here around we have to actually do all of these things. And it's very expensive to do all these things. And I think not specific to the tunnel, but I think when we're looking at things like recycled water or, kind of regional desal, et cetera, we should be looking for public dollars to help us offset these costs. These are expensive projects. Rate base is large, especially in Southern California, but these are expensive things to do. And while the Delta Conveyance project would be fully funded by the beneficiaries of the project, and that's always been the case, it doesn't preclude the need to seek funding for other sorts of infrastructure that complements the state water project or conservation actions that complement it. But there really isn't just a single investment that any water agency, as the ability to make and be drought resilient. And that's unfortunate, but it is the truth. And I think it's important that when we talk about the need for the DCP, it's not in lieu of other investments, but rather in addition to.
Good point.
Director Roten, you had another question?
Yeah, I did think of one question. So when we're talking acre feet from the State Water Project total allocation and then Met's allocation, on your slide that has proposed Project Bethany alignment, it says proposed project is 6,000 CFS, which I'm assuming is cubic feet per second, but I'm guessing.
Yes.
Does that equate somehow in acre feet? Like, I know obviously it's not apples and apples, but to give just a resident of California a visual, I don't know what 6,000 CFS looks like or does, or, so I was hoping for like an analogy or a visual.
I'm trying to think of one. I mean, acre feet is a volume and CFS is kind of the rate that the water is moving. The current Southern Delta diversion capacity is 10,300 CFS. So 6,000 is, a little more than half of what is, physically able to be moved currently in the Southern Delta in our existing facilities. This is why I think we originally started at a larger facility back under BDCP, and it's been whittled down. 6,000 represents what is currently safe to move through a single tunnel based on engineering restrictions at this moment, and that's kind of where that number comes from. In part, I can't compare it to a volume, but if you go to can someone else?
I can.
Director Routen, it's Director Torres.
The engineering
sorry.
nerd can.
Yeah, there it
so
is.
so 6,000 CFS is 12,000 acre feet per day. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
the one's a
So-
flow rate
so
and one's a
direct-
volume.
I think
Is everyone able to hear me?
Gracie's trying to talk.
Oh, yeah, Director Torres.
Okay, Director Routen, a CFS, a cubic foot, is basically your regular Amazon box at a nice little cube. And that is 6,000 of those together traveling at 1 second. So that's a cubic foot per second. Really, really fast and a lot of water.
Oh, okay, thank you. I have a better, so like a
That's
12
great.
cube box. A box that's 12 by 12?
Yeah, a 12 by 12 by 12 box.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay, I used to be in the box business, so that makes sense to me.
Oh, great.
Okay, awesome, thank you. I appreciate that, and knowing that the current flow was it 10,500? Did I hear Jennifer say?
10,300 is the physical capacity.
300, okay.
Just like 6,000 is the physical capacity, but these operations are restricted based on the existing, different water quality standards in the Delta or the protection of fish in the Delta, and other regulations that change, the frequency that we can really capitalize on those maximum physical capacities.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. I have a better
Me
picture
too.
of it in my mind. Well, I think it's important because when we start talking numbers with the regular folks, they glaze over, and they might be able to compare one number to another and say, well, that's higher or lower, but to actually have a visual of what that amount or that volume or those acre feet, and then I know, we translate the acre feet into how many people that serves for a year, and so I just think it helps in discussions. So thank you.
Well, I can
And
give.
for more, I just really quick want to add that in 2017 and 2019, in February of each of those years, we actually turned the pumps down to minimums because all of the storage was south of Delta was full. And so we had from February, March, April's pretty wet, even into May in those years. And that water was not able to be stored. Everything was too full. And that was over, in times over 100,000 CFS of water moving under the Golden Gate. So when we're talking about large storm events, there's the 6,000 CFS is not typically a substantial portion of the type of storms we can see. And although that may not be sustained, over a whole season like it was in 17 and 19, we do see, 20, 30, 40 CFS moving through the Sacramento River during, typical storm events.
Okay, I actually was earlier going to ask, where does it go if there isn't room in the State Water Project, or when we're on this restriction? Because I'm assuming even though the restriction is 5%, there's still other water flowing, but does it go to the environmental concerns and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it goes out the Golden Gate Bridge.
Right.
So it goes into the delta, then out the delta to the ocean. Maybe to give you another volumetric comparison, Jennifer was talking about 236,000 acre feet that could have been captured in basically 3 weeks during December.
Yeah.
For the Western service area, our imported purchase, that would be 4 years worth of water for Western that went out, that unnecessarily, in our perspective, went out to the ocean in a 3-week period. So that's how significant these, and they could have moved that in the tunnels. That was a calculation done that said, if we had the tunnel in place, we could have moved another, not how much water went to the ocean, that is just how much more they could have moved. That would have met our needs for 4 years.
Wow.
Right. There was a fish restriction occurring in the South Delta. It was really, really incredibly poor timing that restriction occurred at the one time we had a major storm here in Northern California. But those restrictions will, likely remain in place. The restriction itself is not something I take issue with. It was the best available science for protection of Delta smelt, but the tunnel does serve a purpose of providing an alternative point of diversion that can avoid those impacts. And that's one of the many benefits that the tunnel provides to the State Water Project.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
all right, well, we
One last
appreciate
question.
that. Oh, okay.
Just,
Director Risby.
Jennifer, how long do you see this project going for? Like, what is the estimate for you guys that it's going to be done for?
Construction or operations?
Operations.
It should be developed. I don't actually know the answer to that, but I think we look at things in 50 or 100-year increments. And I think that we're looking at 100 years more for the State Water Project. So we look at this next century as maintaining the State Water Project. And we do look at climate change data out that long as well. So really trying to create a robust system.
Thank you.
But I'm not an engineer, so I should probably, I'm going to follow up on that so I can get you the right answer. So I will email that over.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here today and giving us a very detailed presentation on what's going on and how Western can be supportive of the efforts. And I think it's safe to say this is on your bucket list to try to get this accomplished. So we are right there with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's go.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Jennifer. Really appreciate it.
Sure. All right. Have a great day, everybody. I hope you all stay cool down there. A couple more days. It's going to be hard, but to the extent that your agency can help with the load, that's on our mind as well right now. So thanks
Great.
for all you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, so that will take care of the presentation, and really appreciate Jennifer being here today to give us an update on everything that we've got, going on. It's a big concern. Mr. Miller, is there some kind of a timing on a letter of support for this? Is this something that needs to have board action in order for us to push forward? What's the?
Yeah, so there's a 90-day comment period that's open right now. So we need to submit something before the comment period closes. So we'll come back to the board. I think I would like to get the board to publicly support the project, but I don't want to wait till the very end because I'd like to kind of take our support and then market that to other entities around here. And, we should go back to the chamber and WRCOG and some of the others specifically to support this project. As you've heard me say before, this has to be separate from Solve the Water Crisis Coalition, because that doesn't advocate for any particular projects, but Western certainly can advocate for projects. So I would do that, with our Western, logo on that, and ask for others to do the same.
Okay. So we'll look forward to seeing that coming forward
Yep.
in support of. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, moving right along to our consent calendar item today. Is there any member of the board who wishes to pull any item of the consent calendar?
A non-member of the board, the staff would like to pull an item.
Oh, staff, certainly.
We need to pull item C. There's some changes we want to make to the minutes.
Okay.
So we'll bring that back to the next
All
board
right.
meeting.
So we'll pull C off of the consent calendar. Is there any board member who wishes to pull any item? Okay, is there any member of the public who has asked to publicly comment on any item on our consent calendar?
There is not.
Okay, bring it back up to the board for
Madam President, I would
discussion.
move approval of the consent calendar absent item C.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent calendar from Director Gardner with a second by Director Roten, minus item C on our consent calendar, which has been pulled at the request of the general manager. Madam Secretary, could you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres?
Yes.
President Dinstedt?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on our agenda to items to be added to the agenda. Mr. Miller, anything to be added to our agenda today?
Nothing to add today.
Okay, thank you. Legal counsel, good morning, sir. Is there anything to be added to our agenda today?
Good morning, Madam President. No, nothing from legal.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our action agenda today. Mr. Miller.
So our one action item today is adopt Resolution 3249 regarding appointments to the Board of Directors of the Upper Santa Ana River Watershed Infrastructure Financing Authority. So we took an action to join. Now we need some representation. So Ryan's going to remind the board of what this is, and we do have a recommendation for serving on that authority. Right?
Thanks, Craig.
Good morning, Mr. Shaw.
Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. We do love our acronyms, as Craig just pushed that one out there. But we did join a JPA back in May, and at that time we were intending to make a recommendation for 2 people to represent us on the board of the JPA, and we neglected to do that. So this resolution is coming back today to take that formal action. We are recommending Kevin Mascaro, our CFO, and Veronica Zhang, our Director of Finance, as the primary and alternate representatives. There is 4 other members on the JPA currently, and 2 of them have staff on the board, and 2 have directors. Since this is a financing authority and we have minimal contribution, we thought it would be wise to put our staff on the board. But we can always change that in the future.
Okay.
I would add that we don't have a lot of projects right now under consideration by the authority. So we're kind of monitoring what happens and what projects move forward. But this is a financing authority, so this is really all about finances and how those costs get shared. And so, at any point that we want, if we want to change that philosophy and put an elected on the board, we can do that. But my recommendation right now, because we don't have a lot of stake in the game, and I think it really would be helpful to have the finance minds up there listening to all of that. That's why we're kind of doing something different than we normally do. We normally put our electeds on joint powers boards.
And as a reminder, the projects are typically the recharge basin projects up in the San Bernardino Bunker Hill area. We call them the enhanced recharge projects and active recharge projects. So we also represent what we call the plaintiff parties as the Water Master, City of Riverside, Meeks and Daly, UC Riverside, and Riverside Highland Water Company. We all contribute to those recharge projects.
Okay. And I understand too, reading the staff report, just for point of clarification, these board meetings are in conflict with our regularly scheduled board meeting. Is that correct?
Same time, once a month, at the
Same
same
day.
exact time.
Yeah.
Same time, same bat channel. Got it. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure
Maybe
that
I'm selfish,
everybody-
I just wanted to keep our board members at our
Right?
meetings
No,
instead
for
of sending
sure.
them to someone
No.
else's meeting.
Just wanted to make sure that that was very clear, because I read that in the staff report and wanted to make sure that that was well known to everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and see if there's anyone to comment on this from the public. Is there any public comments on this, Madam Secretary?
We have no request to speak.
Okay, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for discussion. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Madam President, I'd like to ask a question, if I could. Ryan, of the other 4 agencies, which have board members and which have staff as their members?
Yeah, good question. So City of San Bernardino and the San Bernardino Conservation District have staff. San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District and Yucaipa Valley Water District have board directors.
Okay, thank you. I personally think it's a good idea to put our staff on this, at least at this point. If things change, we can deal with that. But I agree with President Denstedt that it's most important for our board members to be at our board meetings as opposed to someone else's board meeting, and we have exceptionally competent staff who can cover anything that needs covering and will keep us well informed, I'm sure.
Well, and we are talking about Kevin Mascaro, right, who is our former 6th board member, so, okay, I just want to make sure we're clear on that point. Yeah, that's not going to ever go away.
We wanted to give them a little more work to do.
Right, absolutely. No, and this is a financing authority, and I think that, you know, as we get updates and reports and things, I think it will be very clear to staff the direction that needs to happen from the board as we get updates and projects start to move forward and whatever needs to happen. But to make sound, prudent financial decisions is really what it's all about. So any other comments or questions? Okay.
Madam President, I will make my comment a motion.
Director Rizzi has a question.
I wanted to make a motion. I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Gardner and a second from Director Rizvi. Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Secretary, we'll go ahead and call for the vote, please.
Thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Aye.
Director Torres? Director Torres?
Yes.
President Dinstedt?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Appreciate your report on that. Okay, moving on to General Counsel's reports. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Madam President and board members. Nothing major to report, although as the legislative session up in Sacramento comes to an end, our firm is going to be keeping track of the bills that are passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. And at the beginning of the year, we'll provide the board with a report on those new bills that affect the district.
Right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on to General Manager and staff reports. Mr. Miller.
We got several of those today. Lots going on. Spencer, let's go with the PowerPoint first. All right, next slide. All right, so you've heard in the news again. So we heard from Met a while ago with their state water, low allocation of state water project. The west side agencies in metropolitan service area were down to 1 day a week watering. Well, here comes phase 2 of problems. So Met has a leak or had a leak on their Colorado River pipeline that crosses the Santa Ana River. It's on a bridge, crosses it. They had a crack in an expansion joint, so they have to fix that before they get a major failure. because obviously without State Water Project coming into the system, they have to make sure they can get Colorado River. So let's go, so these are Met slides. So let's go to the next one. So anytime you're talking about Met facilities, so that's Adel Haj Khalil overseeing. I hope he wasn't working on it. I hope he was there doing other things, but that is the expansion joint. And for those of you who have had the privilege of touring Met's plant, they actually fabricate that themselves in-house. They have the capability to do that. So they made this, and it took them 10 weeks to do, and it's going to take them 15 days to install. This is a major project. So they have to dewater the line and install this, then repressurize the line. And that depressurizing the line doesn't mean a lot until you start thinking about the volume of water that's in that line. Look at the diameter of that. So think of all the water that's sitting in that pipeline coming from point A to point B where they can shut it off. Next slide. So who does it affect? Well, here all the yellow agencies are the ones that are on a 15-day hold on outdoor irrigation. So a lot of some of the same agencies that are already on the State Water Project 1 day a week watering are now down to 0 days a week watering for the next 15 days. But you also notice the complexity of Met. A lot of agencies are not part of the State Water Project issue are now down to a 15-day hold. And idiosyncrasies of the system, look at Beverly Hills sitting in the middle, just a little isolated. LA is not affected by this, but Beverly Hills is. So it's a mixed bag. The plumbing is very complicated at Metropolitan. So this is about 4 million customers at Metropolitan Service Area that have a 15-day prohibition to outdoor watering. So you've heard that in the news. I'm just giving you a little more background on what it is. And again, Western, very fortunate not to be impacted by this. Next slide. I'll start this, but Sarah will finish it. We were very fortunate at the California Association of Public Information Officers event last week, which our staff was at. Go to the next slide. There's our happy staff because we won an EPIC award for our rate adjustment program. Sarah, you want to give us a little background on the award?
Certainly, it would be my pleasure. I think this award in particular is a testament to our board's direction in terms of prioritizing and really making it clear to staff the value of communications and engagement with our community and being as transparent and as efficient as possible in challenging decisions like rate adjustments. In terms of the award itself, the California Association of Public Information Officers or Officials is a statewide association made up of more than 900 members across the entire state of California. Those memberships include special districts, cities, counties, state agencies. And this year, the award program itself had nearly 300 entries across several categories. And the category that Western was honored with, you can see here we have a nice trophy here to put in our cabinets, but it was the highest entry category. So we earned top honors in the highest entry category across the state. So really proud. The award itself represented the work that Western did to commit to a fully integrated campaign from start to finish in terms of thinking about our customers, how we would communicate, all the way from building out the timeline of rate adjustments, the phases of work to help customers understand our value of services, all the way through the need and why we needed to continue securing those resources that allow staff to continue serving reliable, high-quality water 24/7, 365 days a week. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our executive team also, who was driving decision-making that included both our general manager and deputy general manager, fully supportive of this effort, and our other staff in the project, specifically Michelle Adams, who was single-handedly helping reimagine our Prop 218 notice alongside our finance team with Kevin. We also had Grace, Micah, and several other communications team members involved in this project. And of course, Daisy Banuelos, who's our budget analyst, who did all the meat and potatoes behind the effort to then be able to help us communicate that outward. So really well done all the way around to Western, and it's projects like these that make me proud to be part of such an exceptional team.
Thank you, Sarah. Great job by staff. It's really fun to see all that hard work pay off and get recognized by the industry, because we're water people, and putting together outreach programs is not what we were all trained to do. That end of the dais was trained to do it. So it's really encouraging to see that collaboration working and paying off for our customers.
And this is not just water agencies. Capio
Correct.
is public agencies
Public
up and down the
agencies.
state. So
Correct.
they're cities, they're a variety of different things. So this is a standout amongst the industry
Correct.
of government service providers and what we do. So kudos to staff.
And I would like to add, one more thing for the board to be excited about. We have a staff member en route now to Portland attending 3CMA, which is the National Government Communicators Association, because the same program is up for that national honor as well. So hopefully we come back with that as well, but very exciting.
Okay, that means everybody needs to rub the rabbit's foot, cross the fingers, do all those things, right? So great job.
You get them to bring some water back when they return?
I can send pails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not sure which to rub the rabbit's foot for most. Power, survive power, have water, or win outreach awards. So we got a lot of things we need here.
Rabbit's got 4 feet.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see. Moving down my list. Great news. Grant funding success. You want to hear another one? We just received $1.5 million. $1.5 million grant for installing generators for permanent power generators at 2 pump stations. So that's amazing. Another $1.5 million. So that comes from the California Office of Emergency Services. So that's some state money. We've been very successful getting federal money, so now we've got some state money. So great news. Anita and Stephanie Ober did a great job preparing that for the agency. So that's good news. Saltwater Crisis, just another update on our outreach. I spoke at Raglan. I had a meeting with Senator Roth that was very effective planning strategy. Meeting with Northern California agencies to get more collaboration with Northern California. So I met with the general manager of Placer County Water Agency, Andy Fecco, with Ed Stevenson from Alameda County Water Agency, and several others in Northern California. So we're trying to spread the news. Had a significant presentation to the BizFed Water Committee. So this is a statewide business organization. They took a unanimous support position. I'm speaking with their advocacy committee tomorrow, and then their board next week. We're also presenting to the Cal Chambers tomorrow to try and get their support. So very busy. And then, as Director Denstad knows, we were talking about solve the water crisis at the Aqua Region 9 meeting, trying to figure out how to get Aqua more engaged in statewide water issues and take a stronger position to advocate for their membership. Last one, maybe just building on the update I gave yesterday at our engineering committee. So last night, our staff did an outstanding job getting off of the grid. So we put our wastewater treatment plants on emergency temporary power, and that went well. We treated sewage all night. All right, we made it. So we got off the grid. We already talked about the water system filling up and getting off the grid as much as possible. So last night we got the sewage treatment plants off of the grid. We'll do the same tonight. We hear that this bubble of shortage is going to get a little bit better tomorrow, hopefully, but we'll see. This is kind of a day-by-day issue. There's a lot of traffic going on, collaborating with statewide agencies, CMUA, which I'm a board member on, and on the executive committee is really, Barry Moline is doing an outstanding job with his leadership across the state, because they're half water and half power. So he spends a lot of his time in the power world, and now he's really doing a good job of pulling the water entities in to try and get them to get off of the power grid and get us funding for doing that. So we're keeping track of all of these costs, and we will be submitting all these costs for reimbursement from the state. Okay, that's it for my updates, but as you can see on the agenda, there's one more thing. It's a drought response program update. So we've got a tag team. Ryan is going to, I believe, start it off, and then Grace Cardenas is on Zoom, and she's going to talk about the outreach side of it. So Ryan, all yours.
Thanks. Good morning again. I wish I had a pail of water. I feel like I come to you with bad news all the time on this one. As Craig mentioned, I'm going to share this with Grace. I'm going to give you a water supply condition update, and then she's going to walk through some of the communication outreach programs we're implementing. Just a reminder, over the last couple of years, we've had 2 state of emergency executive orders from the governor, and most recently, a couple months ago, if you recall, they issued another executive order for commercial, industrial, institutional, non-functional turf restrictions. So all the water agencies, including our staff, have been contacting all of our CII customers, letting them know that the state has put this mandate out there, and we're going to develop potentially a new CII program to help with a turf removal. So hopefully we can come back to you in a couple months with a program there. Metropolitan, you just saw a graph that Craig showed on state water project dependent areas. Last month, their board adopted a call to action resolution that really focused on some of these emergency type CIP projects that they're implementing as soon as they can to booster their existing infrastructure to move Colorado River water and stored Diamond Valley water all the way across their system. So that was a big push, especially from some of those state water project dependent member agencies. They really are pushing MET to have an equity allocation across the board. So that may be something we see in the coming months. On the Colorado side, not any better. You probably saw the Bureau of Reclamation asked all the Colorado River users to reduce anywhere from 2 to 4 million acre feet. And as a reminder, the total volume of water coming out of that system is around 12 million acre feet. So 2 to 4 million is a pretty big percentage, a big cut. The good news for 2023 in California, we are not, as a state, going to have to contribute any water under the existing contingency plan. However, the forecast is still on a decline for the available supplies coming out of Colorado. So likely in calendar year 2024, California will have to start contributing, which includes Metropolitan in our service area. Another kind of good news for the moment for 2023, Metropolitan is still going to have access to the water they have stored in Lake Mead, which is over 1 million acre feet. At one point, there was a concern that that was not going to be available, but they've done a good job negotiating with the other states' partners, so they still have access to that, at least for the year 2023. I'm sure you all read about and or saw Governor Newsom's press release on his water supply strategy. Just a couple highlights. It talks about creating storage space for up to 4 million acre feet throughout the state, and that's surface and groundwater. Recycle and reuse at least 800,000 acre feet per year by 2030. Free up 500,000 acre feet per year by eliminating water waste, so conservation efficiency type activities. And of course, make new water available by capturing storm water. There was about 8 billion, B as in boy, price tag of funding that kind of went along with these proposed projects. A lot of that is already prescribed for projects that are in the works. So I think our estimate is around 3 billion of that 8 billion may become available for local projects. So we're tracking that very closely, and as soon as we get the details from the administration, we'll have a better feel for how and when to apply for that grant funding. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Grace.
Okay, I'll start. Is there questions? Oh,
Sorry, hang on, Grace.
okay.
We have a couple questions.
Yeah, I was curious, back on the water supply slide, metropolitan state water project dependent areas, expanded use of water stored at Diamond Valley Lake. Do you have
Yeah,
anything
so,
more specific?
good question. So Diamond Valley Lake, that stored water came from the State Water Project over a number of years. And currently, Met is drawing that reservoir down to serve eastern and western municipal water districts. What they're doing now, and I mentioned emergency CIP projects, they're trying to find ways to pump that water out of the reservoir all the way to those State Water Project dependent areas, so across their whole system. So currently, they can't do that out of Diamond Valley Lake. They can do it for the most part with Colorado River supplies coming out of Lake Matthews.
Okay.
But they're putting in some new pumps, essentially new pump stations to help move some of this Diamond Valley water.
So that would impact our water supply as western and eastern, but those, Diamond Valley was financed by the Met family, not by western and eastern. We paid our share. So that's all built for the entire Met family. So they're working feverishly 24/7, the Met staff, in planning new CIP projects to get the plumbing fixed so that they could move State Water Project from Diamond Valley back across the service area. So, those are going to be long-term projects. This isn't something that's going to happen in the next few months. This is going to be over a number of years.
Okay,
They're going to start building these projects. So
okay. So
certainly we hope they build those projects because the west side agencies need more reservoir storage. We certainly hope it's going to rain before those projects get built so they can fill Diamond Valley back up again, and then we'll all, be living off of a full reservoir. But it's a big initiative. Met is spending a huge amount of engineering and planning time figuring out how to do that. It's all coming before the Met board to take kind of these emergency actions to implement those projects. It's a big issue at Met, huge issue at Met.
So even as, quote, emergency projects, you're still looking at a couple of years before?
Absolutely. They have to engineer the projects, they have to permit the projects,
Yeah.
and then they have to go out and bid the projects, and then these are big projects. These are major pipelines, pump stations, things that take a long time. Remember how long it took us to build La Sierra Pipeline and the Sterling Pump Station?
Mm-hmm.
They'll be in the same boat.
Just to add on, to give you a feel for quantity, Diamond Valley holds like 800,000 to 900,000 acre feet. Met has been drawing down per year 100,000 to 200,000 acre feet from that reservoir, so let's hope it rains,
Yeah.
Okay.
just to give you a feel for quantity.
And just a quick comment on part of why it will take so long to get this done is none of the pumps or pipes or most of the other equipment that is going to be necessary to build this project exist. They have to be fabricated. You can't order it from Home Depot or Lowe's
Okay. That
or
makes sense.
anyone.
Yeah. And then my other comment is, or question is kind of more of a comment, and that's on the California Water Supply Strategy. Item 4, make new water available by capturing stormwater and desal. Obviously, we all know what happened at Huntington Beach by a board of unelected officials that made that decision. I had heard previous, or when that was happening, that our governor is actually in support of desal, which I was encouraged by. Are we, I don't mean we as Western, but are we hearing anything in regard to, like, and I'm not asking for a report on the Huntington Beach project, but is that going to try to come back in a different form?
Yeah,
or,
Ryan. Yeah, Ryan, what are they going to do?
Do we know if, I'm encouraged by the fact that the governor does seem to be saying he's in support of desal, so I'm just curious if there's rumblings about the commission that denied it and all that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of rumblings, as you might imagine.
I didn't say grumblings.
Rumblings. There is grumbling too, though.
Oh, there's more than grumblings.
There's more than grumbling.
I was going to say, one other takeaway from the governor's speech was he, and in this picture is former Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa.
Right.
He anointed him czar of infrastructure and suggested that they're going to try and streamline kind of the permitting and environmental process for some of these bigger projects. And I take that as the Delta Conveyance as well as maybe Ocean Desal. Don't know how realistic that is in California, but that's kind of how I interpret it.
So there's a lot of, the water agencies obviously want to better define what the governor means when he says desalination. But then there's also been, like the Coastal Commission, when they denied it, they said something to the effect of, we're denying this project, but we would be in favor of smart desal. Okay. So, you know, all the water managers look at that and they're like, we have no idea what you mean by that. Okay. And then there's also kind of some language out there that smaller desal projects might be acceptable. But to a water engineer and a finance person, the length of time and the amount of trouble that it is to build a desal project, why would you go through all that 15 years of effort and permitting? It takes the same amount of time to permit a 5,000 acre foot project as it does a 25,000 acre foot project or 50,000. And so for all that investment, you want as much bang for the buck as you can get. So the idea of building little tiny ocean desal projects doesn't really make much sense for a water resources portfolio. But hey, you know, we're gonna go for everything we can get. And if we can only build 5,000 acre foot projects, then that's what we're gonna have to do.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just.
I wish I had an answer for you.
I know that you hear, you know, more things than I would probably hear. So I was just having some hopefulness that
we still have hope.
We might work toward that.
That really should be a whole session at Aqua, at the winter conference.
Ooh, yeah.
What does desal mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Madam President, just a couple quick observations on the Huntington Beach project and the Coastal Commission in general. Coastal Commission was established by initiative. It was originally established by the legislature, and then it was reestablished by, I want to say it was Proposition 20. So it exists as a piece of the California Constitution. The legislature can't change that. The membership, it's a 12-member body. The governor appoints 4 members, the president pro tem of the Senate appoints 4 members, and the Speaker of the Assembly appoints 4 members. And the philosophy of those 3 appointing entities may or may not coalesce. So you may see 4 of the board members supporting something because their appointing body, say the governor, likes that thing. But the other 8 don't because their appointing bodies don't like that thing. The Coastal Commission, by definition, its sole role is to protect the coast of California. And anytime you do anything on the coast, it has an environmental impact. And it is challenging to show a single-purpose agency that creating an impact on the coast is a good thing that they should approve. So I think if California really wants to push ocean desal as a water supply, it's my belief that California may need to look at amending the Constitution to move that decision or decisions on those projects from the Coastal Commission to something like the State Water Resources Control Board, kind of as California did when they created the California Energy Commission to approve significant power generation projects on a statewide basis, as opposed to getting permits from a variety of local agencies, and if you're a regulated electric utility, the Public Utilities Commission. So it's going to be complicated to address that. It's not anything that will happen quickly, but if the Coastal Commission would identify what kind of ocean desal projects they think make sense, I think that would be beneficial. And if I don't know that they know, but whatever it is, it's going to be smarter than Huntington Beach was.
All right. Can we go to Grace?
Yes, let's go to Grace.
Save us for Grace.
Good morning, board members and members of the public who are tuning in. I apologize that I couldn't be in person. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, but I still wanted to join and bring you updates on drought outreach. So you heard from Ryan that the drought conditions continue to change, and we're continuing to enhance our drought outreach in response to that. Some of this information you hear monthly during ComGov, but I wanted to reiterate what we're working on and share some new tactics for you as well. Next slide. So regionally, we continue to provide joint presentations to cities, community groups, and local chambers. This has been a huge effort from many staff members at Western, including our general manager and the board as well. So we thank you for helping us get out and reach more people. We also are attending several events. I have a slide on that later. And we do general manager updates as needed to just keep our partner agencies up to date. And then we have toolkits available that have newsletter samples, bill insert samples, and all the collateral that we're working on. We continue to share that with our partner agencies. Next slide. So you've seen these before. We finally have our table tents, our yard signs, and our coffee sleeves available. I believe you all have copies of those with you. Those are literally being delivered today. We started last week, took a little bit of a break because of the heat, and now we're back out there making sure that local businesses have access to these materials. We're starting in our retail service area, so in Riverside and Marietta, and then we're expanding based on the availability of the materials that we have now. So I'll update you at the next ComGov meeting about what businesses we've reached and any feedback that we received from them. Next slide. We continue with our service area outreach. We produce our Drought 411 emails as we have new information coming from the state or from Western. Social media, we continue to post there, and our website. Next slide. Here's our event list. It doesn't show August, which was very robust for events. September, I don't even think that this is the full list updated as of today because it continues to grow. October looks light, but the more events we attend, the more people that we have asking us to attend our events. And so we've received really good feedback about reaching the community with our drought messaging through all of those events. Next slide. And this is fairly new. We started an ad campaign. So we have traditional print and digital ads that we're running in Inland Empire magazine and the Riversider magazine. We're also doing programmatic ads, radio, and connected TV. And so programmatic ads work a bit different than they used to. It used to be that you would select the platform that you wanted that ad to be seen on. Maybe you wanted it on specific websites or specific blogs. But now, because Google knows so much about us, it knows who we are, what we like, pretty much our whole lives, we're able to just set parameters based on preferences and demographics. And then Google will show our ads based on those parameters that we've set. So for programmatic radio, it works the same way. That's radio like Pandora or Spotify. And so if I'm listening to Pandora, I may receive one ad based on my gender or what I like. And my husband may see a different ad based on his gender and his preferences and what he likes. So that's really how our ads kind of show up for different people. And so we did radio in both English and Spanish as well. And then connected TV is the same thing. That's like Hulu or Apple TV, where you're watching something and then you stop and you get an ad in front of you. And our impressions are doing very well. We know that people are watching our ads because they are visiting our website. At the end of each ad, it says, go to wmwd.com/drought. And we're getting much more hits on our website because of those ads. Next slide. So here's our video, the boy with the floaty. This is what you'll see if you're watching Hulu and this ad pops up. So go ahead and play that video.
Just one moment to enable the sound on this video.
This one ran on
Sunscreen.
Facebook a couple weeks ago.
Check. Goggles. Check. Floaties pumped and ready. Okay, Dad, I'm ready.
Son, I'm here. All right, here we go.
Is that it?
Yep, gotta save water.
We are in a drought.
So that's one of our commercials. We just filmed 2 more, so we have a variety playing. And then the other video in that blue box, those are our social media videos. We're just working on answering quick, simple questions, which is harder than you think, doing it in about 20 seconds or less. So you can play one of those for us as well.
Use less water.
As a Western customer, we're asking you to cut your water use by 20%. The easiest way to do that is to focus on outdoor irrigation first. Dial back those irrigation timers and let your grass go a little gold. The Golden State will thank you.
So those are some of our social media videos. We're working on more of those as well. And next slide.
Sunscreen.
We also have targeted outreach. Michelle's team is working on this. This is related to the state's ban on non-functional turf for our CII customers. So they're working on direct outreach along with a campaign for our out-of-budget customers. And you'll hear more about the specifics of this campaign at a future meeting. Next slide. And I'll turn it back over to Ryan to wrap up the presentation.
Thanks, Grace. I've got more good news for you guys. I mentioned there's a conversation going on at Metropolitan about allocating the available water supplies. Currently, the State Water Project dependent areas have a specific methodology and formula that allocates water to those 6 member agencies. I also mentioned Met's board adopted a resolution, call to action, which talked a lot about equity amongst all of the member agencies. Craig, Tim, and I attended a Met managers meeting on Friday where they tentatively proposed allocations for all of the member agencies. They have an existing process. It's called their water supply allocation plan that they've put into place 2 or 3 times over the last 10 or 15 years. Typically, they make that decision in April, May, once they have a good feel for the water supply condition coming out of the winter. So I'm just giving, they're forecasting that they're likely going to implement their allocation plan. So we may have to come back to the board and consider moving into a higher stage of our water shortage contingency plan. We're currently in stage 2, but if Met puts us all under allocations, we may have to go into stage 3 or higher. So once we get further down the road and figure out what the allocation might look like for us, we'll have a recommendation to come back to the board. Grace already.
Happy?
Pardon?
Next spring or sooner?
So, no, it would likely be in the spring.
Oh, okay.
So they want to see what happens this winter. But the analytical work takes months. Every agency sends their troop up to Metropolitan to argue about the way the allocation should be calculated. And we've already submitted all of our data for our water use, our historic water use, to start the process. But it's taken months in the past to finalize the formula. So they'll do all that work, and then we'll see how the winter plays out, whether they have to implement it.
I won't repeat, Grace already mentioned on the regional and general drought messaging. And we also mentioned we're going to come back with the CII turf replacement program, hopefully in the next couple months. Just to give you a feel for how much non-functional turf is out there, Sarah and her team did an aerial imagery analysis, and there's over 3 million square feet of CII customer, what we think might be non-functional turf. So it's about 250 individual customers that we'll be reaching out to directly to see how we can incentivize or help with their non-functional turf removal. And with that, I think that's all we have. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, questions? Okay, I have one question from slide 13. And this would be for our out-of-budget customers. What's the trend? Are we having a slight increase? Are we having any increase?
The trend, I don't know if we've trended it. We're targeting them. So regardless of what the trend is, we can come back and look at that.
Yeah, I'd be curious because, we always are going to have customers that are going to be out of budget. There's people that want their lawn as green as they possibly can because they're the Joneses on the block and they're going to pay for it and they know that. But I just wondered if there's any slight tick up or tick down with us sending out a conservation message, or is it staying pretty flat?
Well, according to Grace, we're changing the message that you don't want to be the guy with the greenest, you want to be the goldest. So we'll see how successful Grace is. But this is one of the metrics that Sarah and her team will pay attention to. Is the messaging working? Because obviously we'd want to see a downturn in customers that are in penalty phases. I don't, Ryan, have you guys looked at the data at all?
We have, I just don't remember offhand, but just in general, our service area has, in June, was down 7.7%.
That's overall water demand.
Overall,
not out-of-budget customers.
Just to give you a feel for where we're trending.
The other thing we do this time of year is, as we move into fall, there's a profound increase in messaging to dial back your outdoor irrigation in time for fall, because our budgets do contract in fall. So that messaging is going out in addition to the drought messaging. So you will see a contraction in outdoor water use, or penalties will be higher.
Yeah, and I can just add to that, on average, Western customers are about 85-ish% in budget. That's pretty standard trend. A lot of other water agencies experience that similar trend who have water budgets. We have also, in addition to aerial mapping of non-functional turf, we also map out where our out-of-budget customers are. So that's what allows us to really target those, and we'll be looking over the next couple of months to see what's working, what's not working, where do we need to adjust either in messaging or tools that we're using. That outreach is also going to be including HOAs. We're nearly complete on updating those lists, since those ownerships do tend to change over. But we really want to be working hand in hand with those communities that we can see on the map that have the most opportunity to meet some of our savings goals.
Okay. No, I just, and traditionally the Marietta customers have done a little bit better staying in budget than other areas, just pointing that out. And was that all for your update, Mr. Miller? Because I had one other question.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so can you give us, or can somebody give us just a snippet over what happened with AB 1157?
Oh, that's a whole meeting.
I know.
1157, we put in a huge effort to fight 1157 with Aqua and all the water agencies I'm aware of, and it actually was not getting the votes to pass. It went through 3 revotes, I don't remember, but they kept asking it would fail or they wouldn't have enough votes, so they'd ask it to come back later for reconsideration. It failed all of those until the last one, and at 11:30 at night on the last day, the governor called in favors and got the Democratic caucus to vote it in. So it actually was approved, and it's moving to the governor's desk for signature. And now we're part of the coalition to try and get it vetoed.
And for transparency's sake, and for the members of the public who may not understand the language in 1157, could you tell us what that actually means?
Sure. So yeah, sorry. We speak the numbers pretty well at this time of year. 1157 is the measure or the putting in indoor conservation measures, and it'll be by statute now, it'll be law that it will go down in 2030 to 42 gallons per person per day. Did I get the timing right, Michael?
In 2025, it will go to 47, and in 2030, it'll go to 42 gallons per person per day.
I just
indoors.
focus on the 42 because I really worry about that.
And the current is?
Current is 55 gallons per person per day. So we base our budget on, our water budget on whatever the law is. So that's 55 gallons. So when it goes to 47 and then to 42, we will recalculate our water budgets for our customers, and they'll have less water in their budget. So theoretically, if they don't contract their water usage, they're going to move into penalty tiers. And it'll be very difficult for people to meet 42 gallons per person per day, because right now we don't meet 55 gallons per person per day. And we've done a lot of work trying to get our customers there, and they're not there. Now, a lot of those customers, as Sarah said, are still within budget. So that probably means that they've kind of contracted their outdoor water use on their own to stay within budget. Well, now we're going to hit them with a very significant decrease in water usage. And so I think the board always likes to know, well, what does that really mean? I don't know, 42 gallons per person per day. Well, if you think that our customers are really around 60 or 70 gallons per person per day, they're basically going to have to go down to half the indoor water use that they have today. So think about what you do with your indoor water use. You're going to have to cut it in half. And that's going to be a huge lift, and people are going to need new devices, so new toilets, new washing machines, new shower heads to try and meet those requirements. And the water industry was very united that that's going to be a huge cost on the customers to purchase all of those devices. You heard the governor's office come back and say, no, this isn't going to be a cost on the customers. This is going to be on the water agencies to provide all those devices. Well, I don't know where they think the money comes from to provide those devices. It comes from the customers. So it's going to be on the backs of the customers. Our team did a calculation of what the cost might be, and it was upwards of $19 billion statewide just to purchase the equipment necessary to hopefully get down near 42 gallons per person per day. So that's going to be an external cost on the customers. The other side of the challenge with 1157 is that when you limit indoor water use, the whole water industry's recycled water program comes from indoor water use. So by cutting down the amount of water that's used, we've already built our systems and sold the water to our customers based on the flows that we have now. So this will cut the flows by at least a third, maybe half. So now how do we meet our demands on the recycled water system? We'll now be buying water to supplement our recycled water to meet our customers' demands. So when you look at this as a water-saving measure, it really doesn't save very much water. It just shifts the demands back to us to go buy external sources of water, which puts it back on the customer's back again. So it's just a really short-sighted legislative directive.
No, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't know that the general public is very aware of what their restrictions are going to be that they are facing coming in the future and what that actually means. And are we still intentional upon writing a strong opposition letter to this legislation being signed?
Yes. So we've already joined a coalition to write a coalition letter, but then we're going to write our own letter on top of that. And then we're going to encourage others to write their own letters in addition to being part of the Aqua Coalition.
Okay. We may want to encourage our customers, our member public base, by putting something on our website to have them rise. I don't know. I mean, people really need to understand what this is, and I don't know that this message is out. And I would be curious as well, because, you know, there are so many things that we're doing that will help our customers in the long run when we're changing our metering system so that they can actually see the data in live time. Eventually down the road when we get all that lifted off the ground and finish our conversion. But I would be curious to know that there were a number of agencies in a number of counties that still do not have their water metered. So I'd be curious to know what that number is and how this plans on, you know, if we're all going to be hit, then we all need to hit, and it needs to be equal. There needs to be equity in there.
Well,
and how do you do that when there's people that don't have water meters?
It's a state law, and they have to comply. So they have to figure out how they're going to comply. So they have to figure out whether they're going to force people to install meters, or are they going to have a mathematical calculation. I don't know. We don't know how they're going to do it. We know how Western's going to comply. But I don't know how others are going to comply. And the very difficult thing when we talk about messaging this, and this is, you know, why it's very challenging to put it on the website and build support within the community, because it sounds like we're saying we're not supportive of water conservation by opposing a water conservation legislation like this. But that's not what we're saying at all.
Right.
We want outdoor conservation to be maximized. That's where people save money and get major bang for the buck in cutting back on water use outdoors. Indoor doesn't really do much, and it costs a huge amount of money. And so we really want to push outdoor water conservation, not be legislated into indoor conservation that doesn't really save a lot of water, but it's going to have a huge impact on people's way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really hard to communicate
Absolutely.
to the public.
No, so just thought I'd stir the pot on that one just a little bit.
That's stirring the pot.
Yeah, sorry about that. Any other questions for the general manager or staff reports? Okay. All right, moving on our agenda here, we have director reports and requests. So we'll start off with SAPA.
SAPA has not met since we last met.
Okay. Met, we meet next week. So I will give an update then. Chino Basin.
Chino Basin Water Master met, and their big issue right now is part of the Chino Basin Water Master family is fighting with the rest of the Chino Basin Water Master family. There are 4 of the water, they call them appropriators, but water agencies that do not want to do any environmental work for the required optimum basin management plan update until there is agreement on every project that might be included in that. The remainder, the majority of the appropriators and the vast majority of the Water Master Board want to do a programmatic environmental impact report, a portion of which identifies every potential project that might be out there first. And that allows applying for grants. It's just a better planning method. And so now there's litigation. The 4 appropriators who don't want to spend that money now have sued the water master. It was set for hearing last month. We have a new judge, the judge who had overseen water master, which is a creation of the court. So it reports to whoever the assigned judge is. The assigned judge retired. A new judge has been appointed, but he wasn't ready to hear this, so that hearing has been put off. And meanwhile, the Water Master Board had decided that they would go forward with the programmatic EIR unless the court stays that's what's going to happen. And that's it. We meet again later this month, and we'll see if we get anywhere.
Okay, thank you. Okay, CDA, Director Torres, are you able to give this report?
Director Torres is not able to give the report. She's in a bad reception area and has asked that Derek Kawai give the CDA report.
Okay,
Madam
we'll
President,
come back to that.
I can give that report if that is the desire of the board. I did sit in on that meeting as the alternate.
Okay.
Although since Director Torres was there, I did not directly participate. It was a pretty routine meeting. They had 2 action items. The first one was a contract award for the Chino 2 desalter operations and maintenance manual update. And they awarded that to, who did they award that to? Carollo Engineers, who did the first part and is very experienced with the Chino desalters. The second was a consultant selection for design of the desalter chemical rooms rehab project. That's something that is badly needed for ongoing operation of the facility. That also was awarded to Carollo Engineers, who were both the most experienced, most qualified, and most cost-effective of the bidders. And that was it.
Okay. Thank you for that report. RCRA.
We will meet September 22nd.
Okay, thank you. WRCOG meets next week, so that was moved because of the holiday. So we'll have a report then. Report from Sarah.
They were supposed to meet next week, but it got canceled. We did not have any major item to go over, so we'll meet next month now.
Okay, thank you. Aqua Region 9, we did have a meeting here that was facilitated by our agency, so it was nice to have everybody come, and I think the future meeting is also being scheduled here, so we kind of sit in the middle of everybody, so it's kind of a convenient location, so appreciate staff facilitating the meeting space for that. As General Manager Miller ended up providing an update, we did have a lengthy discussion over AB 1157 with the Aqua Board, Region 9 Board, and had those discussions. And we're talking about some updates, some priorities, and some advocacy and partnerships. You were also able to give them a little bit of a flavor on the Solve the Water Crisis to move that mission a little bit further with Aqua so that hopefully they are more engaged at that level as well. So And then we had a talk about water resiliency, our work group, and what we're doing with the 4 agencies to talk about water resiliency in the area and everything that we're working hard to do, and see if that is something that Harvey Ryan, who is the chair of that, will be taking back up to the Aqua Executive Committee to talk about all of the boards and what good work we're doing and performing and doing our due diligence to try to see if we can facilitate some more diversity and resiliency and band together as multiple agencies making those projects happen. So more to come on that. We look forward to some more engagement with all that. We had some really good commentary on the event that we hosted out there at Wilson Creek, so for the Region 9. So we're looking forward to having some more collaboration and doing another event here possibly in the spring. So more to come on that as we continue to look for some updates and what our membership would like to hear about. And perhaps we talk about our resiliency and what we're doing as collectively agencies down here. So it's kind of where we're at with. I think it was canceled and moved in September to the following week. I'm not, I'll check and get back to you on that. Yeah, the Region 9 meeting. Yeah, because I think it was originally scheduled at the end of September and we had to change the date. So we'll get back to you on that. So I've got another date in my head. Okay. All right, perfect. Moving right along to director's comments. Any director's comments today? We'll start with Director Rizvi.
No comments today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Outen, any comments today?
Just a couple. I'm wanting to be better about sharing if I go out to an event representing Western and our board. I did attend the Norco Chamber of Commerce Installation and Awards Dinner last week. I was very happy to be there. And I'm realizing I forgot to bring in the plaque that we received. And I had it sitting right by my front door. So I will bring that in for being a sponsor of that event. And it was my first opportunity to really interact with some of the chamber members and board members. So I was very happy to be able to attend that. They installed their new board and gave some community awards. I also attended the Eastville Chamber breakfasts. Those are always very lively and educational. They have a really, really good group. It's very early, but it's worth it. And also the Water Task Force, I just wanted to compliment staff. I loved the format of the Water Task Force meeting with the John Oliver that's the gentleman with his video interspersed with the speakers. I mean, it was interesting. It held my attention. It was funny in parts. And I did go and look it up to watch the unedited version.
Oh, yeah, careful there.
And yes, and I see, and you guys did a great job of editing because you still got all the information across without some of the other things that were in there, but not a lot. I expected it to be really, really cut up, and it wasn't. It was, for the most part, most of, the show. But just really enjoyed that format. I don't know whose idea that was.
Well, I think that was Michael's idea.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It was just different. I mean, I always enjoy those and they're educational, but it was just a completely different way for us to learn, something. So.
And all the youngsters learned what a water wiggle was.
Oh, that's right. And I know I had one of those.
Some of us may have had one of those.
I didn't know they killed anybody, but okay. So anyway, I just wanted to recognize that, and I think that's it.
Oh, that's great. No, and it was definitely, it brought a different level of engagement. So and I got a lot of compliments as well, that they were really excited about that program. So now you've raised the bar. Yeah. So good luck. Good luck carrying that forward. All right. Director Gardner.
I have nothing today.
Okay. Director Torres.
She actually has dropped off.
Okay. Director Torres has dropped off, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. All right. Director's comments. I do have a couple of director's comments, and in step with my colleague here, Director Roughton, I will give an update on all of the things that I have attended since our last meeting. So I went to the Temecula Valley Chamber Economic Forecast. I was really excited. They actually put one slide in there on water. So we were able to get... No, it was, because normally, I mean, seriously, that is really progress, because normally we have been ignored completely as to what we contribute to the economic forecast, and being that it was held down in, Temecula Valley wine country, we go hand in hand with these folks and what they're developing out there as their product. So, yes, drink more wine, less water, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. I also attended the Raglan meeting, so General Manager gave an update that was very... Yes, no, it was very engaging. Those customers were very inquisitive. They asked a lot of questions, and I think it was very well received. More than any speaker that I've seen, you extended the period of talk time, Mr. Miller, and extended that meeting out, certainly because of the level of engagement from the people at that meeting. So kudos to you on being able to bring that to light and inform all of the Raglan folk. And for those of you that don't know what Raglan is, that's the Residents Association of Greater Lake Matthews. So love our acronyms, right? I also attended the LEJWA board meeting. LEJWA is the Lake Elsinore San Jacinto Water Authority. It's a JPA. SAPA is part of that. I'm the member assigned from SAPA to be on that. We partner with the county, we partner with the city of Lake Elsinore, we partner with Canyon Lake, and also with Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District are the members on that JPA. And one of the things that has kind of come back to circle back on us is a revival of the LEAPS project. And this has been a hugely controversial project down in that area off of Lake Elsinore. They are changing the name of that, and I have to figure out, and I forgot to bring that note with me. Also sitting by my door and kitchen table, I have a stack of stuff. So next time we'll give some updates on to what that new project is going to be and how they're trying to re-engage that. So that may become an issue for us to have some discussions. The prior project met with a lot of opposition from the residents of Lake Elsinore on that project, and there was some litigation that was done between our partner agency, Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, and the project proponents. So just a little bit of history on that, and we'll get more in depth as we move forward with some of that discussion.
You might want to just indicate what the project actually is. You gave its name, but...
Well, they're not calling it that, so I don't want to...
Its old name.
Yeah, so...
It's a pumped storage hydroelectric project that would create a reservoir up on the mountain behind Lake Elsinore. In off-peak times, they would use electricity to pump water up the hill, then they'd run water back down the hill during peak electric demand hours. It is a sort of a battery in a way. Mm-hmm. It's an electricity storage mechanism. It is inefficient in terms of you spend more kilowatt hours pumping the water up the hill than you get back as when it flows back down the hill. But there are advantages to pump storage and there are disadvantages to any construction project.
Well, and one of the major concerns, I think, for the residents of Lake Elsinore was that this was going to infringe upon individual property owner rights, and that they were trying to align their pipeline going up the hill that directly conflicted with several neighborhoods and actually went through a couple houses. So they met a huge amount of opposition from the city. So more to come on that as that project comes forward and they give us and provide us with more details. And I will have the name of that group that is now trying to revive that under a different name and how they're moving forward with that. So we'll continue with that. I attended the CSDA conference. That was a really well-attended conference. I'm not entirely sure how many attendees were there. Do we have any idea? Yeah, it was a hugely attended conference. It's probably one of the bigger ones that I've seen with CSDA. That's the California Special Districts Association. And it was a leadership conference, so I was really excited to hear some of the keynote speakers at the breakfast program and some of the things. Shola Richards was there as the keynote speaker on the first day, and he was hugely engaging and was really very driven. I bought his book, so I look forward to perusing that and talking about that. And it really kind of tagged in with some of the leadership training that we have done, and it just gave kind of a little bit of a spin and a different perspective. So I was really excited to attend that conference. I also attended, along with my colleague here, the women's conference that was held in Corona. Our county supervisor, Karen Spiegel, hosts that, and that was a very well attended. I heard that there were over 500 participants that participated in that conference as well. So it was nice to see, and I think it was more along the lines of a TED Talk, that they had different women leaders coming up and giving a couple of minutes of presentation on a singular topic, and it just kind of moved through the program. So I think it was very well received by all of the ladies that were in attendance and a few of the men that were there to support the women. So really appreciated her. That's been a long-standing program that she started, more than 10 years ago now, I think. So kudos to Supervisor Spiegel for putting that program on. And then I also attended the Marietta State of the City, so that was well received. And one of the big highlights down there was the fact that the city has now, they had it at the former Marietta Hot Springs Christian Conference Center, and that has now been purchased by an out-of-state company that's going to be reviving the hot springs, and that's going to be smack dab in the middle of Eastern Service Territory. They expect that to be a world-class destination, and so I'm kind of eager to see what they're going to do, and they're very aware of what some of our water challenges are and what they bring to that element, and want to partner with all of the public agencies in the area. So I was really excited to hear about that and what they're going to do and how engaged they are and want to embrace the community to make that a destination place. So just a couple of things on the what's happened lately list, and there you have it. I also attended the Marietta City Council meeting last night and shared with them our conversations about moving forward with MET and extending the agreement for the annexation for the fringe area. So I will share more of that and possibly get a couple of talking points as we move forward with that, so that they are very well aware, since the Innovation Center, most of those folks have not annexed into MET service territories. So that is going to be another little challenge that they need to come forward with, and what that may look like. So just kind of want to keep everybody connected on that, as the city is really pushing hard to get that development, since we've got our MOU agreement in place with Rancho California Water District to start servicing that area. So I'll bring that back to the city when next meeting. I'll give them a little bit of an update, if we can just give them a little bit more of a blurb, and perhaps folks here, Mr. Miller can meet with Ivan or Kim Summers, the city manager down there, and just kind of give them a blurb. I had council say that they'd like to hear a little bit more about that, because they're really pushing for that innovation center. They've got a lot of shovel-ready projects that they want to move forward on. So just to keep you in the loop. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to Director's requests for future agenda items. Any member of the board wishing to ask for future agenda items? Okay. I have a few, so I'd like to talk about those and put those on for a future agenda for discussion. One of the things that I'd like to ask, and perhaps somebody could give us just a little smidge of an update, is the bill that went forward that was being sponsored, I think, by Three Valleys for the Zoom requirements, because it doesn't look like Zoom is going to go away anytime soon. Was that the?
Yeah, do you remember the number, Michael?
AB 2449.
AB 2449.
2449. Okay. And did that?
That's on the governor's desk. On the governor's desk.
It's on the governor's desk. Okay.
You're on a coalition to support that and request his signature.
Okay, so I'd really like to have that come before us to have a discussion and put a policy in place, since the Zoom platform isn't going away. And we could take a look at the language in that bill to make sure that we're meeting the requirements, because I'd like to push that forward for transparency's sake before that gets placed upon us, and have that level of discussion and already have it good to go. So that's one thing.
Assuming the governor signs that, and I suspect he will, I think that would be something that the committee that's looking at our codes would come up with a recommendation for how to incorporate into our own codes. And obviously it would have to comport with whatever the law is.
Right. So and I understand that. My understanding of what that committee is doing as well, though, is kind of looking for the revise and making sure that our policies are current. This would actually be incorporating a new policy, though I think it would be good for the board to have that discussion and come up with some verbiage, get some direction from legal counsel as to where we go with that as a new policy set forward. And I think whether the governor signs it or not, for transparency's sake, the Zoom platform doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon, and I think that it would be prudent for us for that to be set in place so that we know how we need to operate in the future. Legal counsel, any comments?
Yeah, I think that was my understanding of the committee as well, was to review existing policies. This sounds like it'd be more of a new policy. Obviously, the board always has the authority to give that committee additional authority, but that's my understanding of their original task.
Okay, so that would be my request, to put that on a future agenda so that the board could give direction, so that we could start crafting a policy regardless of what really happens if the governor chooses to sign or not sign. I think Zoom is here to stay, and we need to address it accordingly. Another policy that I'd like to have a discussion about is a phone policy on the dais with board members, and for board members to take their phones into closed session. I'd like to have a discussion about that policy and what that means moving forward. And the third one I'd like to discuss is I'd like to have a discussion about a conference and events attendance policy for board members. When the agency is paying for those events and things to take place, I'd like to see us put a policy in place that discusses that. So those would be my requests for future agenda items. Okay, great. Okay. Moving on, we have information items in your packet. Those are for you to review at your leisure, unless you have any questions for the general manager or legal counsel, or for perhaps the CFO, since it's an investment report, if anybody has desire to have any of those information items put forward. Okay. I don't see any closed session for us scheduled today. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam President.
Okay. Have we covered all the items in our agenda today, Mr. Miller?
Yep, nothing else from staff.
Okay. With that, I see our next regularly scheduled board meeting is for Wednesday, September the 21st at 9:30. And with that, we will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today. Appreciate it. Have a great day.